family, and from the inside out. I have gone down that rabbit hole to learn about what's really going on Earth, what is what is actually happening. And in doing that journey, I have discovered some things that I almost could not believe. So I had to seek out some intelligent wisdom from the likes of my guest, Will Keller. And actually, he is so kind enough to work with me on getting it on his channel because mine was not working today. Um, fun trivia is that he said, "Oh, it's Mercury retrograde and twice something," and of course I call BS on that. And he said some things on that, and I thought, okay, well, there's another episode, so we will definitely have to bring him back to discuss the topic of all the astrological and Mercury this and blah, blah, blah. The fact is, we're here, we're persisting, we're moving forward, and we're learning about green language today. Green language. Why isn't it blue? Why isn't it purple? Why isn't it pink language? I don't know. We're going to find out what is green language. Why is it used? How is it being used on us, by us, and all that good stuff. So here we go. It's live streaming. So if you are watching us live, please make comments. Supportive ones would be awesome, but if you have some snarky things to say, go for it. Go for it. And then we will do our best to check the chat and answer your questions because I know Will loves answering questions. And let's do this. Okay, welcome back, Will.
Thank
Green
you,
language.
Stefana. Yeah, it's a great topic and glad to be back with you.
Thank you so much. Well, language in and of itself can really get skewy because a lot of folks don't even understand baseline etymology, which would be the history of a word or where a word came from, the originating source of a word that then just gets through tradition or culture gets changed. Like, oh, ain't it sick? I really don't like when people say that, but
Hmm.
that's very common. And other things that we hear with language. Is that green language? How deep are we going to go with what this is? And why is it called green language?
Oh, absolutely. Those are all great points. And it's good. I'll answer your question that you just said. And then we kind of need to lay some foundations because green language is obviously a part of symbolism itself. And there's many different tool sets. That's what green language is. It's a tool to decode, to have a deeper understanding and more vast understanding and awareness of something in reality. That could be, by way of a symbol itself, an image, even an action, a word, a phrase. And that is what green language is. It's a methodology of understanding and decoding certain symbols, mainly in words and phrases. And this really can be to our advantage, especially in our current climate. When you have a greater awareness, which awareness reveals choice, meaning you're increasing your pattern recognition, and that's giving you more available information for you to discern, to, make correct actions and judgments and gain a deeper understanding of not only yourself, but of nature, the universe, the deeper aspects of truth itself. So green language is one methodology, but it is a subcategory in the overarching category of symbolism itself. So let's kind of dissect and explore what symbolism is, why it's important, how it's used, etc. And I have a quote that I want to start off with the incredible Carl Jung, which absolutely everyone should be studying Carl Jung and his work. He's one of many. But the quote that he states is, "The language of symbols is the original language of humanity. It transcends culture, history, and even the intellect, reaching into the core of our very being, awakening a deeper awareness. So that's a profound quote on symbolism itself. Symbolism is ancient. As long as, men have drawn breath, symbols and symbolism has been a incredible part of their journey, of our journey. We interact with symbols every single day, all the time. The question comes, do you have the eyes to see? Do you have the knowledge and the know-how to decode the symbols that you are interacting with, that you are viewing on a day-to-day basis? The social engineers, the people that are, pulling the strings, influencing society, absolutely understand symbolism and they utilize it to their benefit, right? So what are symbols and why are they important? So symbols can really be anything, right? Even words, mathematics, that's symbolism right there, right? The actual numbers that we use on a day-to-day basis, this is actually a symbol. 1, 2, 3, square root, etc. It conveys a meaning, a deeper meaning of something that derives from nature. Nature herself is not a mathematician. She does not use numbers or formulas, right? But yet it exists. It's truthful, it is there, and we can see and identify the patterns, the symbols inherent in the natural world that gives us a deeper meaning. And then we, of course, can express that and attribute those meanings with our own symbols that we create. Mathematics being one of them, language and words being another. So symbolism itself, it speaks directly to the subconscious mind. That's why in that quote with Carl Jung saying it transcends culture, it transcends history, there are basic symbols that are almost have a objective universal meaning, right? They are eternal. For instance, the circle. The circle has many, many meanings, right? But it can be observed and you can come to understand the purpose and the deeper meaning of what a circle is and how it relates to nature. And you can do that cross time, cross culture, etc., right? I mean, the circle meaning wholeness, complete. We symbolize the circle as the sun or the moon. It's feminine in its aspect, right? So, I mean, there's so much that can go with just that one foundational basic symbol. And of
Okay,
course,
I have
go
a
for
couple
it.
questions.
Sure.
So first you said green language is a methodology. It is a tool for decoding. Whose tool? Because at first I was like, okay, green language, whose tool?
Yeah. Anyone's tool. That's what a tool
When did
is. A
it
tool can
first,
be used by anyone
true.
that is capable.
When did green language first, like who used that or termed that? It's green language. Do
Sure.
we know why?
Yeah, absolutely. And, green language, that's one word for it, one phrase for it. It's also been called the language of the birds. It's also been called the language of light. But green language in particular comes from the Hermetic tradition, right? So now we're diving into occultism, primarily alchemy. And it means green for many reasons. One, the verdant aspect, meaning nature itself, right? The inherent aspects of nature, how we can look to nature and understand and see these symbols, and we can utilize those and express them in different ways, right? Also, green, the color green, is twofold. It means care, and it also represents poison. So it's twofold, meaning that you can use the symbolism, the phrases, the words for good, or you can use it for immoral intentions. So it comes from the alchemical tradition, and the green aspect was, some say, in the literary sense, it was a almost an acid base that could dissolve particles, and you make a solution, right? So it breaks something down, and then you can transmute that into another substance or element or molecule. But then it has the allegorical aspects of it, of meaning care or poison. So when you say who can use green language is being used all the time, and anyone can use this, right? It's just all about education.
Okay, brilliant. So the
Yeah.
next one, then you said speaks directly to the subconscious mind.
Yes.
Speaks directly to the subconscious mind. Let's go deeper. How, why, like, how is the subconscious mind actually receiving that? Why is it speaking to that? And it's clearly not using words. What's it speaking? What, I need more on that.
Sure, absolutely. So when I say that it's accessing the subconscious mind, right, it resonates with the primal aspects of us and our interconnectedness of nature, of reality, truth, existence, right? So there are archetypes, there are symbols that we can see, like I said, the circle or the triangle, that speak to our divine nature on how we are interconnected with reality. So, for instance, you can look at fire itself as a symbol. Anyone that can see that symbol can understand it's hot. You don't want to touch it, and there's many use case scenarios for fire itself. So as we just naturally grow from, adolescent, from being a child all the way up, we can see and we can experience without being told. We can interact and see certain symbols, how they relate to nature and how we can interact with them. So it speaks to the deeper core of our essence. Does that make sense?
Yes. And in terms of, because you mentioned the triangle and the circle, and then you said archetypes, but archetypes and the circle and the triangle, I'm trying to see right now in nature, where's the circle? You said sun, all of that. And so, okay, and that's going to speak to me. When I look at a circle, that's going to speak to me of the sun. And that's going to then somehow my subconscious is going to make me feel like I'm receiving light. And it's like, really? Is that what you're trying to communicate?
Well, yeah, it can convey many things,
Hmm.
right? But it's conveying meaning and deeper meaning of aspects of nature.
Or are we putting it on there? Because just like Jung put all this meaning across all the archetypes, and every other author who writes stuff and takes his interpretations and writes things about more and makes it mean more and makes it mean this and this and this. And it's still us putting our meaning on it.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. That this is the whole human experience. It's
Mm.
twofold. You have objective reality, right? That is there. It is the truth. And then we have our subjective experience where we can learn and evolve and decode and express the information that is all around us. The question is, when you're expressing and decoding that information, is it applicable? Is it useful? What is it? What's the context of that? Right? So yes, a circle, I can put up the symbol of a circle, and certain people will have different meanings to that.
Okay, so let's look at context and usefulness. As you're
Sure.
describing, and then let's use it within the context of the trivium, where here now we're getting information, we're getting data. You're sharing with us the symbology in green language, and how that can speak to our subconscious. And so this is data, and now we go in and process it within
Correct.
the context of the view of, is how is this useful for us to evolve,
Sure.
right? And then the evolution is the putting into action, which is the rhetorical process, and this cycle begins again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, real quick,
Yeah.
multiple symbols coming together, like a sigil, for instance, right, where it has multiple symbols that come together that make it like an overarching image. And each of those symbols speak to our subconscious mind. It has a resonance frequency, which can influence the way we think, the way we feel, and thus the way we act. Right? So you see,
But before that, someone would have to choose whether or not to allow that or to think that or to say, I reject that. Can't they? It's not just arbitrary.
for sure, yeah, free will is always potential, but needs to be actual. You have to choose that. So people that do not have the information of symbolism or green language, right? They're not educated on that topic and they don't understand how certain symbols influence our subconscious, right? Then are they making the conscious free will choice to act a certain way, or are they being influenced for a certain result? That's the question.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago, though,
Yes.
including those like police officers.
Yes.
So we can't, can we have one or the other? We can't have both here. They're being influenced because they're influenced that those symbols are positive and they're doing good and they're helping the world. And so they take the action to go into military and to go into police. And yet at the same time, and they were influenced to do that. They were influenced to make that choice because they thought it was a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And yet no, but then no, because it's actually a bad. So then it's like we're being punished. The whole utopian story. We dumb people down and then we punish them for being dumb. It's like this kind of thing. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Kind of. So, I mean, it's cause and effect, right? So, just because someone is ignorant, that's not a justification for taking an incorrect, immoral action. So, the order followers, due to their ignorance, are taking those incorrect, immoral actions. And yes, they are being influenced, they're being mind controlled, but they still, through that incorrect information that they hold, they're making the wrong choice.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm trying to look at the start of this. I'm trying to keep pulling down the string to find the freaking uh, beginning. Do you know what I mean?
The beginning to, yeah, but elaborate on that. What do you
Yeah,
mean
the
the beginning?
beginning of
The
where,
beginning of how we all got here in this situation?
yes, and right? Because it's not like we can just put a stop, like just like, okay, everybody stop. This was a failed attempt to create utopia or create heaven on earth or create whatever, right? Failed attempt, folks. And here's why. Because we took in incorrect information, believing that it was correct or believing that it was the right way to go, and then we take action on this, that it's inverted.
Absolutely. Yeah, the inversion principle is one of the main principles of kind of the tool sets that the social engineers use. And it's not really about took in past tense information. That is correct also, actively taking in incorrect information because we're making choices and we're taking actions every minute, second of the day. So, in someone's personal individual journey, they can stop, drop, and think at any second of their existence. This is the whole goal of having these conversations, is to spark someone into stopping for a minute, analyzing themselves, having a great deal of introspection and seeing their role in reality.
So what you just said is very profound. It's not just stop, drop, and look. what you just said is probably the hardest thing right now on planet Earth, to stop, look around, look
Mm,
within, take full freaking inventory and go, whoa, what is
yes.
going on? What am I contributing to? What am I leading? How am I leading my life? And so I don't want to gloss over that, because what you just said, yes, is important, but it's not like a one and done and check it off your checklist,
Yeah,
which is
great,
what I
great
have been
point.
searching for, is the checklist item that gets me to where I want to go. It's nice and easy. So yeah, okay. Now moving on, because I
Hmm.
know, full transparency, folks. I have been the what Mark Passio calls solipsism. I have completely been on that parade, and it's ineffective. And literally, I was taking clothes out of the dryer, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it just be nice if I could go back to my positive thinking, right? Oh, I could just, there's my beautiful Abraham Hicks book on the vortex, and I just need to get into the vortex, and I just need to, and everything would be, and then I can snap out of it, and it's all good and peachy. And right, that's not, that's, this is the process. This is like going through this, and wait a minute. Uh, so then there's got to be this balance, because I'm looking at the most beautiful trees. I'm looking at green right now, and sun is shining, and I'm so grateful for that. And the sky, thank you. Right. At the same time, really wanting to understand. I did not know when we started this that green language is symbolism. I thought it was just a bunch of words like parents, parents. So that's not what green language is then.
Well, green language can incorporate puns and phrases. Um, so yeah, it's a broad category. Um, so yeah, I mean a lot of it. I mean, I'll give you some examples of of green language. Um, Spiritual. Okay, so and first things first are the principles of language that are always there and objective that need to be understood when it comes to something like green language. So you have the word spiritual. Now, spiritual can be broken up, that word, right, into spiral ritual, spire ritual. It can be broken up so you can see that, oh, wait a minute, there's two words in this one word, but what does that mean? That will initiate you on a discovery process. Spiral ritual. Well, spiral, right? Because our awareness is not linear, it is a journey of unfoldment. It is a spiral, either through evolution or involution. And ritual. Ritual is a practice or a habit. So, what you do on a day to day basis. Are you spiraling into higher awareness and morality and evolution? Or are you spiraling down towards involution and immorality? So, there's many. That's a short example.
But
Words
that's a good example. That was a
that
really good example. Okay.
correct.
So
Now a
green
lot.
language,
Yeah,
let me just fully understand this, because this is
sure.
clearly not a one episode thing. Green language is, that's the first time I've ever understood this, and I'm so, this is like, there's got to be a book, the language of birds, the language of light. I'll, amazing.
I'll give some great resources
Okay,
towards the end for sure.
fantastic.
So, but with green language, let me just run down these categories real quick because you're right. We could do multiple episodes on this. So, the key aspects of green language is obviously it's symbolic and it's multi-layered. It has phonetics in there and also etymological association, right? This is why it's good to know etymology, the origins of a word. For instance, like soul, soul, soul. Well, I said two different things. I said the human soul, then I said the soul, the sun. So it's it can be wordplay, but it also has its educational aspects or its etymological aspects to it, right? A lot of this is rooted in the occult understanding and the occult traditions, the hidden secret science of nature and human psychology. So it gives you a deeper understanding of nature, truth, the divine, and human psychology itself, right? So the linguistics are there. And also the metaphorical, the correlative aspects, and the allegorical and archetypal aspects are all part of green language itself. So it's a huge topic, huge category,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
so exciting.
profound.
So exciting.
Oh, I've said it many times. You can have a full blown quote unquote awakening just by understanding language, etymology, and green language. But understanding what it is and then applying it to the world, and the veil will shred from reality, and you will have a clearer understanding of the human condition, how reality operates, and ourselves as well.
Uh, Amazing, miraculous. I am so excited about this. I almost want to just like, okay, I'm going to focus. This is what I'm going to dig deep in because I
Sure.
love this. And I love words and I love symbology. So this is fantastic. Bill Donahue is someone that I kind of stumbled on, and he deciphers the Bible in a way using allegory. This whole thing. If you haven't seen William Donahue's channel and something about new beginning, new awakenings, oh, I can't remember exactly, but I'll put it in my show notes. Phenomenal, completely changed my mind, an understanding about literal versus uh, the allegory, because I literally took everything literal for so long, and it caused
Exactly.
great pain, great suffering, great struggle. I had no sense of humor because I couldn't get jokes, right? And um, then I went down reading a lot of Neville Goddard. That's kind of the way, and he does a lot of allegory types of things, right?
Yep.
And then, right when I started thinking I was on the right track, I heard controlled opposition and the new age being a control, like a whole, uh, somehow putting forth the controlled language of truly understanding with regards to stories. Can you tie this in just a little bit? Um, and then the new age green language and that, so that we can get a little bit more of a clear path to
Okay.
understand this. And then you said secret a couple times. You defined the occult, that it's hidden, and the secret, and the hermetics. I keep asking this question: why secret? Why did the original individuals who had an understanding of this have an understanding and say, we don't want anybody else to have it in a way that was harmful, or because well, we're not going to share something that's kind of empirical. If you look up at the sun or you look at the stars or you look at nature, anybody has the opportunity to do that. So what happened? Why is it secret? You know
Yes.
what I mean? There's still like
Absolutely.
a misunderstanding there for me.
The level of occultism is directly related to humanity, humanity's relationship to nature itself. So the more we are disconnected to nature and truth, the more deeper and secret the information of occultism goes, right? So the hidden information of how reality functions and how human psychology operates, that body of information is the occult, and that will be known and held by fewer and fewer people as collective humanity disconnects from nature. So yes, there was a time, an ancient time, where occultism was what I'm saying, what occultism is, what I just described, was common sense knowledge, the understanding of human psychology, natural law, how reality operates, changes, manifests, etc. We can see evidence of this in the ancient cultures, the pyramids, the animistic cultures and indigenous cultures. They had knowledge, profound knowledge of nature and how it functioned. And how did they convey that to their predecessors, right? They used symbols and story and allegories and metaphors, right? So they're using green language because when you use symbols and you use something like an oral tradition, you're getting multiple benefits. One, you're getting the symbolism, which will resonate very well with an individual if they have the decoded information. There is a vibratory resonance when you are speaking or telling a story or saying a word versus just reading a text on a piece of paper or on a screen, right? So you get that added energetic component frequency with that. So in the ancient times and many of the mystery traditions as well, everything was passed from lip to ear. It was oral. And there was many reasons for that. And then you can encode that into a story itself and use allegory. This is why the mythology, mythos, logi, right? So it's stories with logic, and they're timeless. They can be passed down through eons, and you can still decode and understand the occulted, the hidden, profound meaning of what the story is trying to convey versus just writing text. Once the written word came into play, there was a degradation of human consciousness and evolution, right? The written word and obviously the control structures that started to rise up and wanted to, control the availability of information. We look in the past, what do we see? We can see all the murder, the genocide, the crusades, these religious wars, and who are they going after? They're going after the animistic people. They're going after the indigenous people, right? Which the religions, primarily Christianity, just coined them pagans, which pagan just means country dweller. It means someone that's outside of the Abrahamic religions. But why do they go for those people? It's because the indigenous animist people are close with nature and they hold that information that's supposed to be common sense on how reality operates. You wipe out those people, you sever that line of communication, and you kill those oral traditions, and you go to the written word where then you can tell your own story, his story, and you can write it a certain way. So you're creating a vacuum, a information differential, meaning crucial body of information is being held by just a few people, and that will create a power differential, a power vacuum. So, and that information is what we're talking about: morality, natural law, how reality manifests, and how what are the governing dynamics of change, human psychology, and many other aspects. That is occultism. So if I had to label myself, well, what do? I am a de-occultist. I am bringing hidden information out to the public, out from the unseen, so it can be visible, known, and utilized.
Oh my goodness. I'm just going to have to soak that in for just a moment, and then I have some questions.
Sure. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
right there, what you just said has to be repeated a million times, a billion times every day.
Yes, it's factual. It's matter of fact what I just said, and it's very hard for people because people are so conditioned and programmed a certain way to be materialistic, to be analytical, to be linear. So to get into these categories of symbolism or quote unquote occultism, just look at the word occultism and how that's been demonized and obfuscated to be evil, right? When occult is oculus, occultare, all it means is hidden, hidden from the eye, hidden from the scene, from being seen. So that's all the word means. That's why etymology is so important. And there's many other words, freedom, for example, or anarchy. I mean, so really diving in, getting to that
So do that
education.
then. Freedom, anarchy, right now.
Freedom. Well, not in today's context, when you say, "Oh, I love freedom. I'm all about freedom," a large body of people will identify you as a right wing extremist, right? So they put you in this box or this category due to their ignorance, right? And their misinformation. Anarchy is another great one. We see it all the time when there is actual destruction on TV, on the news. They say, "Oh, it was chaos. It was anarchy." When you know the etymology of anarchy, an from the Greek prefix without, and then archons from the Greek, which means ruler or master. So anarchy literally means without rulers, without masters. The state of being free.
So hang with me, and I know you never
Sure.
told me this personally. So the state without being ruled or without being mastered,
Correct.
the the maybe it's not green language, but the programming, and it's definitely I get it, mind control, is that if individuals are not are without a rule or rules or without control, we will have chaos. You see, this I get how this is programmed. I get how I came about to need to control things because of the fear piece, which I don't know if it came from green language or symbolism or whatever. Because there's, you know, I'm trying to resolve my own inner conflicts by
Mm-hmm.
going through this process. And
Sure.
in doing this publicly, I am wanting to show others that it is a process. And for someone who is definitely not anti-process, but not that's not second nature to me. It's not natural. It's not something I would naturally do. I just want to get to the result. I just want to get it. So process is really challenging, and that is why I'm just like, okay, this is maybe my work to put forward and be as just like, here it is, folks. This is the process I am going through, and you may go through it as well. And here's some tools that can help you. This idea, you said in our native state, we would have the natural ability to decode information. Did I misunderstand that?
Well, we're constantly decoding information, right? So, I mean, that's the
But
brain
are we
itself
decoding it
is a
incorrectly?
processor. What's that?
But then are we decoding it incorrectly because we have wrong input?
Correct. This is why the trivium is so important. If you don't have the tool
Okay.
sets,
Yeah.
then yes, you can decode the information incorrectly.
And the only way to even do it for yourself is to go through the process.
Oh,
No one
absolutely.
else can do it for you. No one. I realize now that the thousands and thousands of books that I have and have studied, and because I wanted to understand, it's because I was looking for someone else to tell me the answer. I wanted to get to the answer quickly versus do this work that I feel for myself. I want to run and rabbit from this. This is the last thing I want to do. this is the last thing I wanted to do today. I'm only here because you are so competent and calm, and that you're willing to be here to walk me and hopefully others through it by this video, by us putting this out there as information.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when you say you've got the control structures and then the degradation, and you went through the whole process, and I'm not going to repeat it because it's there and I need to go back and restudy it, and just that piece of how you talked about how the mythos and how, so if we've lost touch, now that we know, okay, there's green language, and we can know green language, we can understand it for ourselves, and we can move forward in a way. What are the steps that one would take? Not, and I'm not saying we should all do it in public, on the public eye, but I think that it does require communication with another, because I don't think I could have come to this on my own, right? Even in the last 39 minutes that you have been explaining green language to me, it's like a whole new world has opened up, even though I have all these big doors over here that opened, and yet I know I've just touched barely. So what?
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a good process to do.
Okay.
This is why our conversations here are being very well received, because we can see your processing, my explaining as well. Like, this is very organic and authentic, and this is great. I love these conversations. But you are absolutely right. We do this on our own, yet we can obviously interact, have mentors, gain a lead, which is what we are giving people now. We're giving people a lead, but they must progress and follow that lead and go and dive into it on their own. That's what you have to have the care, the time, and attention to invest. When you invest in something, there's a payoff. So the lead today, obviously,
but I want to invest in the right stuff.
Sure.
I felt like I have spent 40 years investing. I remember being 8, 9, and 10 studying yoga and wanting to know the answers and meditating and demanding the answers. And then I remember going off for 20 years in a complete crazy expensive adventure into lies. I don't want others to do that, but I don't know how to prevent that or tell them, even with my own son, where I see him going through this journey.
For sure.
And there's a part of me that's like, okay, and I don't know, is this solipsism where, well, it's their journey and I need to let them on their own time, their own space, their own discovery. They get to figure things out on their own. It's their journey, right? Is that solipsism? Or it's like, nope, I'm freaking going to do whatever I can to communicate.
I totally understand what you're saying, and it really depends on what it is. Should we be aggressive and loud and have vitriol when it comes to something like human slavery? Absolutely, because it affects all of us. We're not talking about how to change your oil or, fix a flat tire, right? So, I mean, if someone wants to learn that, go for it. If they don't, that's fine. But when it comes down to certain topics that are critical to all of us, that affect all of us, like what is going on in reality. So you have that 0 point, right? Why should someone understand symbolism, green language, and etymology? Because it's the foundation of the information you are taking in. Just as why should you understand the trivium method of truth discovery? Because that is the operation, that's the formula of taking in information, processing it, and then having it influence your choices in reality. So it depends on the why you are going to do something. You don't have to have the exact answer, but if I want to, have a nice garden, right? That's kind of my intention. Have a nice garden. And then I can apply something like the trivium, which is the process of critical thinking, the true scientific method, to start gathering my grammar, go through the logic and process the information, and then act and create a nice garden. So that's why the trivium is so vital, because it is a step-by-step process, a natural formula for the human being to go through that metaphorical alchemical process of breaking down all the raw data, the grammar, process that, and then act on it with our rhetoric.
I am completely, I know that I'm glib on this, and I'm going to ask for your help to bear with me on this.
Sure.
Because I've understood the trivia method in now and work on trying to practice it. But then you just said the alchemical process of grammar and getting the grammar. And so why do we even use grammar? Because grammar, I mean, I'm rhetorically speaking in why do we use grammar? Because I think as soon as we say, well, the trivia method starts with grammar, then most of us, people in the chat, tell me, when you hear grammar, you think, oh, grammar school. I have to learn a and the, but, prepositions, verbs, all this. That's grammar. But is that not grammar? So what's the green underlying meaning of grammar? And then you said, okay, the logic. And as you were describing logic, is logic the knowledge? Or what's the actual etymology of that? And then why do you say alchemical process for the trivia method? Can you break those down?
Sure. Yeah. Using a little bit of green language, or using a metaphor of talking about the trivium, the method of truth discovery, with the alchemical process, right? So if you look at the alchemical process, the first stage is calcination. Well, first you're gathering all the ingredients.
Is what?
The first stage of the alchemical process is called calcination. So it's breaking down the elements. Correct. That's a fire.
I've never heard that word. Sination. How do you spell it?
CalCination.
That's a brand new word for me. Thank you.
The alchemical process is a great place for people to start with symbolism and green language, metaphor, allegory. It's fantastic. I would highly recommend people study the alchemical traditions, right? So, I mean, alchemy itself, the word alchemy. Al is Sanskrit for the divine or God, right? And then chemi, which is chem, like Cometian, ancient Egyptian, which means a art or craft. So it's theurgy. It's a divine art and craft for self-improvement, deeper awareness, clarity, etc. So now, if you're taking the alchemical process as the literal sense, right? Then you could look at it as, making a tincture or a spagyric tincture, right? So it has
you got to define that. You got to define what spagyric is.
Sure. A spagyric tincture is using the alchemical process. For instance, you would gather your elements, any type of plants or minerals. And then it goes through a process of breaking that down, right? The elements itself, by using an alcohol or even water if you want, breaking it down, then distilling it, going through that process of distillation to separate its components salt, sulfur, it's oil, right? And then recombining them at the end. So it's a process, but what I mean, there's a material aspect of that process. It's chemistry. Where does chemistry come from? It comes from alchemy. So even chemistry, modern science chemistry, comes from a mystery occult tradition of alchemy. Now, alchemy itself, or chemistry, ancient chemistry, right? It has a spiritual, metaphorical aspect to it, meaning each stage not only represents the breaking down of plant or mineral material, it correlates to human psychology and the human being and nature. So there's that, how I mentioned earlier, having that correlative thinking. It's pattern recognition, where you can see something and it has dual or multi-layered meaning to it. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm hearing you. Dual and multi-layered, which just now added a whole new piece.
Yes. So, I forgot what you had, like an original question, and then we went to alchemy.
It's because when you were describing the trivium and in using it as well, the grammar, and then we need to process it, and then the logic. No, the
Yes.
logic is the second part, and
Correct.
then rhetoric. But rhetoric to me was the actual discussion. I mean, that what I recall learning in high school is that rhetoric is the speaking of it.
That's one aspect. Speaking is an action, right? So it could be speaking, it could be doing. And this is what's beautiful about the trivium. And this is where people get stuck and they never activate. And they get stuck on what I'm just about to explain right now. So, of course, you want to learn something, right? What is going on in the world? So you go through that trivium process where you start gathering all the raw data, the grammar, right? And then you get to a point where you want to process that, and you want to see the inconsistencies, the correlations, analysis, and filter the information. And then you come to a result or your conclusion, and you express that out into the public, right? Whether it be a podcast or whatever it may be, you express your findings. Now, those findings that you have expressed, they also become more information. So it goes back to the grammar stage for someone else to listen to Stefana and Will and incorporate that into their raw data. And then they go through the processing phase, and then they express their findings and their conclusion. So it's an ongoing process. That's why in the clinical studies, the scientific community, there's peer-reviewed studies, meaning that there are scientists that are posting their conclusions. And science is always changing and evolving. It's a process. It's a process of higher awareness, of discovery itself.
And why?
People get stuck. People get stuck because they get stuck in two places. The grammar stage, where I need to learn more. I need to take in more. I'm going down all these rabbit holes, and they never get to the processing phase, and thus acting or activating and expressing what they have found, what they have come to learn in the world.
Why did they do that?
Well,
what's going on that's the case?
It could be for a number of reasons. One, fear, of course, right? Fear that they don't want to take the next stage. They don't want to put the pieces together, because what will that mean? That might mean I might have to do something. I might have to change. I might have to let go of my false beliefs. Okay. Right. So there's a process of, integration that they're scared of. And then, some people are addicted physically to that, black pill stage where they are, information junkies. They just want to keep taking in more information, because those clicks, the discovery of information does initiate a dopamine.
Mm.
chemical surge in the body where you found the next new thing.
Yep.
So, and there's many reasons. That's why it's gather your
Which
grammar.
you would want to have this piece of knowledge for yourself to know and to be able to understand what part you are in. Is it worthwhile to know? Sorry.
No, go ahead. I was speaking to my daughter real quick. Keep going.
Is it worthwhile for us to know what we are in, what stage we're in the trivia method? Are we in them simultaneously to a certain degree? Should we stay in only one for a little bit until we're really good at that one area? How do we know? Or is it only a personal thing and you just have to figure it out?
No, I can give some great advice, and those are excellent points. That's why we talked in an earlier episode, we talked about intention. What an intention is. It's a mental marker, right? So you are putting a target on something. This is why, it's good to make that choice, that decision on a category, and then invest the time, the focus, the care to go through the trivium process on that target, that body of information or the outcome. This is what a hypothesis is, right? If you want to understand truly what is going on in the world, right? Now you have your intention, your goal, then you can go through the trivium process. If you don't make that goal, if you don't have that target or that intention, then you're just blowing in the wind and you're going to get all types of crazy information coming from every direction.
Well, this is exactly where I think so many are. So
Yes.
the question to you is, how do you make that choice?
Well, it takes care and willpower is what it takes within someone.
So are someone going to do baby steps? Uh, I can look at it. I'm really trying to not bring any of my past and my coaching training and all of my training in here at all. Not that it's not workable, but I really want to understand this from a new place. And so, seriously, like, how would someone make the choice? Show me empirically. Care, okay. So I care about something. I care enough to even come to this point where I'm asking the question, how do I make the next right choice? Because there are so many freaking choices potential. Do you see what I'm saying? There's so
Yes.
many potentials right now,
Yeah,
like more
for sure.
potentials than I ever imagined. And so as a result, yes, I get it of having an intention. And that's super important because I don't want to be flying 50 different planes. I can't as the pilot, right? I get
Yes.
that. And yet, so how do we make that choice to go to the next step, to use that intention, to find the mental marker, to know where my destination is, so that I can put all this in context, so that I can, right, so that someone could do this.
For sure. And this is what, doing the one great work, it is having those vitriolic seeds, those questions, like an example. Do you care what goes into your body? Do you think you are a good person? Do you understand you are contributing to the slavery of the planet? So you're asking these hard questions
Or
to
the freedom of the planet.
correct, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
And
how to say that.
yeah, no, that's a great point. And I mean, having that versatility of information and tactics, of course, I say different things to many different people. Usually I would ask a few general questions to gauge their level of awareness, and then I have kind of a insight on the direction and the approach to come at them to spark thinking, asking them those questions, right? This is the Socratic method. You're initiating critical thinking by asking certain questions. And the individual care and willpower, that is up to every individual, but yet we can influence other people. The social engineers do it every day, every minute of every day. We are using the same tactic. And or we need to use that same tactic of action at a distance, inspiring, influencing people to say, oh man, I never thought about what I put in my body. Maybe I should do that, right? There, because you're speaking to the heart, not only to the mind, but to the heart as well. And that's why what an individual conveys has potential, has an impact. And again, what we are saying matters, right? It's like walking up to someone on the street saying, "Do you like blueberry pie?" and interrogating them on blueberry pie. Like, who cares? That doesn't affect anyone
I
else.
don't know. Come on now.
For sure, for sure. So, but my point being is what we are conveying, the topic, those questions, the information is important.
Okay, I get that. You've said this a couple times, the vitriolic. Is that a green language? Can you define that word and share more on that?
Yeah, so vitriol, let me see if I can pull up it is a occult alchemical word. Um and it's very deep. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Vitriol. When someone is vitriolic, um in the exoteric, what most people think, it means that it's harsh language or harsh speech. Now, for me and in the occult traditions, vitriol is double edged. It is aggressive speech. Of course, what you are saying is important. Mark Passio is someone that has profound righteous vitriol because what he is speaking, the context of what he is speaking is based in truth. It is moral and it's applicable. Someone could be using vitriolic language, and cussing you out because they don't like the way you look or whatever it may be. So in the alchemical, green language in the tradition, and there's actually an image of what vitriol is, and it's a green lion spitting fire at the sun. It's an ancient image. It's beautiful, but that has some profound symbolism in itself. So vitriol, it means um, I'm gonna skip. Well, it's vista intoriari terrere recticanto um, invinis occultum lapidum. That's the Latin for what it means. But it means visit the interior of the earth to rectify um and to rectify, which means to purify, and you will find the hidden stone. So what is it talking about? Is it talking about, visit the interior of the earth, go into the earth? No, it's talking about going within oneself and purifying all the false beliefs, the impurities, distilling the soul and the mind, right? And you will find the stone. The stone is another symbolic representation of what in alchemy they've called the philosopher's stone, which is higher awareness, is the true moral human being aligned with natural law itself.
So you just gave a really great example because every time you would say vitriol, I thought of, um, in my mind, the definition was anger, spewing negativity. And so when you would say that, it just didn't make sense. So now we see we've got surface level definitions for words that we're using, and then we've got the deeper meaning, not so much of the word, but of the meaning that creates the change. The alchemy, because
Mm-hmm.
alchemy is change. It's the change, the process.
The process, correct, of transformation. But you
We
mentioned
have
a great point.
complicated the heck out of this planet, haven't we? I mean, honestly, because as you define it, and coming full circle from what you said in the beginning about green language, it's like this. You know those things where they expand out and then they can come back together, and then they expand out and they come back together. That's literally what I feel like this process is for
Mm-hmm.
anyone. So if anyone is going through this process, has gone through the whole, decided to go and really study what Mark Passio set forth with his podcasts, and then to any of the offshoots of actually diving deep in any of the references he shares, anything that Will shares, anything of anyone on the One Great Work Network. This is the process: open, big, close, coming in. And I know for myself, I'm really talking to myself through this, is that this process, the most pain and suffering is going to be when you resist it. I believe when you resist, because since I have stopped resisting, and I'm just like, okay, I mean, not being victim, but like not resisting of, I've got to get this. That's resistance almost. It's just like, whoa, let me look, let me listen to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a couple things, because this did not go anything like what I thought it was going to be for green language. I thought we were going to look at all the words and the symbols and the cool little like triangles and the circles and the Freemason and the
All
like
of that's a part
the
of it,
symbol
though.
that's on your shirt. And I was like, tell me about that. I want to see, what's that cool symbol you're wearing. I love necklaces. Show me the, what's that, right? I want,
Yep.
but that's like, oh my gosh.
All of that is part of symbolism, right? The pentagram is a great example, right? It's been demonized for years. The star itself is an ancient symbol representing, has many representations. It represents the human being itself, natural law, the elements of the material world and the spiritual world. The Pythagoreans, it's sacred geometry as well, being the isosceles triangle triplicate 3 times, which is also the formation of water, which is water being the antenna of the human body. So it's all of that, right? Green language is also wordplay in itself, right? Spelling, casting spells. That's all part of green language. The important part of going understanding etymology, the principles of language, green language, is to understand the language of the universe, of nature, of divine, and how it is being used against us on a daily basis.
Give me one example.
Well, you see, I mean, just walk through the supermarket, right? The grocery store, and you'll see a lot of symbolism, being used. You'll see some artificial orange juice where they show a picture of, a child picking an orange off of a tree in a beautiful orchard. But what is in the box is nothing organic, natural, coming from an orchard, right? It's processed, it's chemical, pasteurized, all of that stuff. But yet people see the cover of the box. Oh wow, that looks healthy. That looks natural. I'm gonna buy that. You were influenced through symbolism to make your purchase and put toxins into your body.
And they call it marketing. Yeah.
And they call it marketing.
Okay.
Marketing itself is the influence of human psychology through symbolism and language, many other tools as well.
Yeah. This is from everything you've said. I've got like 50 different threads that I could pull and go down, and anyone could. What's the next step for someone right here, right now? What's the next step for studying etymology just a little bit deeper without going so far off in the deep end if they're on the path of really wanting to understand what on earth is happening.
Yes, excellent. Mark does have a great section in his podcasts on symbolism, green language. So that's good to check out. There's several content creators on the One Great Work Network. I recommend Nate Cap. He's from thecubbyhole.com. Fantastic presentations on etymology and symbolism. Brandon Martin as well is on the network from seedtruth.com. He did a whole presentation at the Funnel Conference on green language, which I would recommend if you're interested in green language, start there because he lays the foundations very well. Very well. So someone has a clear starting point on symbolism, etymology, and green language.
How far should they go before it becomes a distraction off the actual path?
Sure. Well, you want to get your foundations right. You need to understand the principles of language itself. You need to understand what etymology is and what green language is. In generalities, what they are. Then start viewing the world, put it into application in your life, right? This is the beautiful thing about green language and symbolism. I'm learning all the time. All the time. I come across new words often and I don't know the meaning of those, or I just look up certain words because I want to see if the definition that I have is accurate to what, the common colloquial answer is, right?
Knowing that you work with your daughter on a daily basis, homeschooling, unschooling, how exactly do you implement this in her foundation of understanding?
Oh yeah, I mean the principles of language and correlative thinking and all of this, the general foundations of pattern recognition is important. She learns a new word.
Are you using a specific dictionary with her? Are you going through to learn so that she can understand how to write and communicate fully in understanding this?
Sure.
What does that look like?
The process is you come across a word. First thing you do is you want to look up the exoteric. So just Google that word and get what it says the definition is. Then you can write it down. Now you want to go to you want to break the word to its etymology. So you're going to want to use a Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, Arabic translation. So you can get those free online as well. I personally own several and I try to get as old as possible. So that way you're able to take a word and break it up into its components, right? Especially with the English language, our English words are composites of mainly Latin, Greek, Sanskrit, or Arabic. So, or Proto-Indo-European. So that's where the English language derives from. So you're getting down to that etymology. Some good resources, Etymology Online. They have an app as well. That's great to use as a reference. I've seen that platform change over the years. I've used it for a very long time before it was an app. And that's something to keep in mind, right? There are humans writing books, controlling a platform or an app. Things can be changed. So it's good to have multiple references. A manual on etymology. This is extremely old. This is by A.C. Webb. And I think this is from the 16th century. Let me see. This is a good one.
Is your daughter interested in looking at the etymology of words?
Yeah, here and there. I mean, it's not a passion, just like any kind of young child. They're not focused on one thing or just a few things. They're in that exploration time period where, it's about incorporating these tool sets into your daily functions, your life. Right. So every once in a while we come across a word that sticks out that she might have appeal to, and that's a perfect opportunity. So it's recognizing those opportunities and then acting on it,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of parents, they don't have those eyes and ears to recognize an opportunity, a learning opportunity in for their kids. Well, the majority of them send them off to,
Right.
public school, so they're missing out on a lot of time in
Which we
general.
want you immediately.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to share that you have the confidence. It's the number one thing that I hear from fellow moms, fathers. They say, well, I don't have the skills. I don't have the ability. I don't have the qualification. I really want to. They're suffering. I want to take them out, but I can't because I don't have the qualification. I don't have the time. I don't have the this. And yet, as you hear, the child is suffering, thus the family suffering is like, no. I remember reading something from John Breeding, uh, and I'll share the book. John Breeding wrote The Wildest Colts Become the Great Horses, or something, Greatest Horses, something like that, the parenting manifesto. And he said, I think actually, um, who wrote Dumbing Us Down?
John Taylor Gatto.
Yeah, I think he also said something very similar, which was, when should you um, either send your kids to school, or when should you bring them home from school? And it was like, now, like, you know,
Yes.
you send your kids to get first grade. No, no, 12th grade. No. And right. So I think that I would like to say that, because I did homeschool and unschool my own, and I was constantly battled by peers and fellow, and now I am so grateful, even though I know I didn't do it perfect. If I had this understanding, even this understanding right here in this moment, would have made my life better for them, so that they can understand. So no regrets. But if someone's
Yeah,
hearing right now and you have, or even on the fence at all, no matter what age they are, bring them home. Bring them home.
absolutely.
Start. You have the skills, you have the tools, and I promise you, you will have the support. If nothing else, you have my support. And it's you're not alone, and you can do this, and you are capable far more than you ever thought possible.
It's a
So
fantastic category, and maybe
yeah,
one day we'll do an episode
I
all
hope
on
that we
that,
will. Yeah.
because I interact with a lot of homeschool, unschool people, and there's still a lot of programming that parents, bring into that type of setting, and that's one of the biggest keys is unlearning and deprogramming yourself and understand what true education and true learning, what it looks like in nature, in reality, for a young human being, for sure.
Yes, what it looks like, what it feels like. It's very, very different. I'm just now starting to feel like this. So this is an hour and 15 minutes, and I have learned more than probably my entire, right. I mean, it's a bit facetious, but being stuck, and like, I remember sitting in 10th grade, and like, period after period after period, and then day after day after day, and month after month, of like, what?
Yes.
When this is what we can do right now. And I think that there's enough in a community that can create and co-create and collaborate together to learn in this way. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to do these with me as we go through and process, and then also to share with the world. So I just want to
Yeah.
give a shout out to Shano, because good morning from Australia. That is so cool. And then I saw marketing is legalized lying. Gosh, isn't that the truth? And a few more comments. We have something from Christopher, super cool, and John Cox. I really love when we have collaboration, and keep going forward. Yes, man holds no authority over man. No matter how many votes of approval, we slipped off that slope long
That's
ago.
yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Well, we're going to wrap it up, and thank you again for your time. We'll come back again next week. I think there's more to green language. Now that I understand it a little bit more, I'll come better prepared with a few questions because I really wanted to understand certain things and to ask those questions, but I had no idea what green language was versus I had a superficial idea. So thank you for sharing that incredible green language, exciting something, the language of the birds. That's my happy place. I can't wait to dive into that one. There's so much here. There is so much here. We'll do one more episode because I know it's
Sure.
like five other things already that I really want to talk to you about.
Absolutely.
And so maybe we'll do a little bit more on green language and then go right into the next topic of well, it is part of symbolism, but it's also how do we use this symbolism for ourselves within our family, within our like day to day, every day, moment to moment. I see you wearing the necklace. I love my gems. But I like stones. I'm a stone girl. I love creating, making gems and jewels, and I've done that for decades and always give them as gifts because it's just that's my. I love rocks. I have collections of them,
Yes.
and
Awesome.
and I just is that symbolism as well. But that's not
Oh,
green
yeah.
language, right? It's like, oh my gosh, so many questions. I can't wait to learn and continue and process. I have to
Yeah.
go back and watch the episodes because there's so much like oh, it's so rich and in depth and thank you.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love these. And I think the next episode on methodologies and applications for symbolism and green language would be great.
Okay, awesome. That's what we're doing next week then. Fantastic. Folks, bring your questions. Thank you so much for your support and being here and any just stay connected with us. We want to keep collaborating and expanding and applying, right? Applying this new knowledge and this new understanding at a depth so that we expand as beings and definitely on this human plane. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Bye everyone. Thanks in Australia. Good morning.